Thank you very much, everyone. We'll move on to item number 2, approve the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as circulated? If there's none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. Moved by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. A motion on the floor to approve the agenda as circulated. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 3, declarations of conflict of interest. If anyone have any to declare any right now, if not, when the item comes up and you have a declaration conflict of interest, please note it to me and it will be noted in the minutes. Item number 4, approval of the minutes. You all have that in your package. What is the wishes of the council? Councillor Patty Durkee.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of the public hearing on January 27th, 2021, and the regular council meeting January 27th, 2021, and last but not least, the February 10th, 2021 committee of the whole meeting.
All right, a motion on the floor to approve the minutes as stated. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried unanimously. Old business, item 5.1, parkland dedications. Yeah. Roger? Please turn on your mic. Just hit the red button and I'll turn it on. There you go. We all discussed this in camera, so if anyone has any motions that they wish to bring forward in regards to the parkland designations, now's the time to bring them forward. And if there's any questions, you also have the opportunity to ask our Development Officer Roger Devine to any of those questions you have. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
My first question, I should have asked this before. Do I make all 3 motions at the same time or one at a time?
One at a time.
Okay. I make a motion to accept 5% parkland dedication on file 9868.
Motion on the floor by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert, seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Is there any discussion on that motion? Deputy Warden?
Sorry, it's actually 9860.
All
Yes.
right, you made that a
Yes.
correction. Do you?
I'm fine with that, Mr. Chair.
So the correction was 9860.
Yes.
All right. Deputy Warden?
And was there supposed to be a specification for property or dollar amount in the motion as well, or no?
It was 5% of the 5% parkland dedication. So 5%.
Right, so
The
5%
value.
refers back to a monetary sum as opposed to land. So it's 5% parkland dedication instead of land.
All right, is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I'd entertain a question.
Question?
Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Councillor Hilbert, your mic is still on. No? You wish to make a second motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept 5% parkland value, parkland dedication on file 9862.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Question?
Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Councillor Hurlbert, you have a third motion?
Yes, and I'd like to make a motion the motion conditionally based on final plan of subdivision being materially the same as the concept plan for subdivision number 9864.
A motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen again. Any discussion on that motion?
Question?
Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Roger. There was no questions for you. You are free to leave.
Good night, Roger.
All right, moving on. Item number 5.2, Rural Internet Round 2 Contract Approval. Madam CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So council, on June the 1st, we had a session where council gave me direction to approve a contribution agreement, a contribution of $260,000, $260,500 for the connection of approximately 1,042 civic addresses in order to submit a funding application. And as you know, that funding application was approved. And so I'm seeking permission from council tonight to execute the contract with the internet service provider to allow the build of that fiber network.
What is the wishes of council? I believe Councillor Durkee, you have the floor.
I do. I'm excited about this, and I would like to make a motion to approve the contract. Yes.
Motion on the floor to approve the contract. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Is there any discussion on that? Councillor Durkee, your mic is still on, so you therefore still have the floor.
Thank you. I just think it's really important for those people who contacted us with regards to lacking rural internet services, that whatever and whomever whichever areas we're lacking in service have been approved, and it looks like we'll get quite a high percentage of Yarmouth County covered. And in addition, I know already that Bell has been out in Brazil Lake and told them that people out there that they'll have service by the end of this March. So that's pretty exciting.
Any more discussion on that? Before I ask for the question, I will also state, yes, you're absolutely right. They're out Brazil Lake, and they're also up Lake Annis Road and up in the Lake George area, which also covers your district. So I do know they're out and about, and as a matter of fact, I've seen them today. They are right near the Gableton Bridge, which is a dividing line between the municipality of Yarmouth and municipality of Argyle. So they are out and about scouting areas, making sure that the trees are trimmed and stuff like that. So they are out there working on the project, and it cannot come fast enough. Is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Item 5.3, recommendations from the February Committee of the Whole. Policy amendment, meeting dates and times. Policy number C-028-19. What is the wishes of council? Deputy Warden, you have the floor.
All right, so I'll move that the municipality of District of Yarmouth change the council procedural policy C-02819 to change the meeting length for the committee of the whole to 4 hours.
Motion on the floor, so a seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. Is there any discussion on that motion? Before I call for the question, Madam CAO, does it also not have to be noted in there what time the meetings start, or no?
Mr. Chair, right now the policy just says that every year council must determine the day and the time of the committee whole, but the policy does stipulate the length by hours, so that's why we are amending the policy with the length of hours.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? If not, I'd entertain a question. Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Item 5.3.2, policy amendment, low income tax exemption L-068-09. You all have the recommendation in front of you. What is the wishes of council? Councillor Patty Durkee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion to approve 0.3% as the Nova Scotia CPI increment for the low income threshold for policy L-068-09.
Thank you, Council. Councillor Patty Durkee made a motion. To have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Any discussion on that motion?
Question.
Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Item 5.3.3, ground search and rescue action required. You all have in front of you the recommendation of 5.3.3.1. 5.3.3.2 is a structural integrity report, and 5.3.3.3 is a request a letter of support. Councillor Nick Hilton, you have the floor.
So I'll make the initial motion that we direct staff to work with Yarmouth Ground Search and Rescue on how to assist Yarmouth Ground Search and Rescue to work with our partners, the municipality and district of Argyle and the town of Yarmouth, to see how to assist Yarmouth Ground Search and Rescue, and further to investigate how other municipalities work with their respective ground search and rescue teams to support them.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Durkee, your microphone's on. Do you wish to comment? Any comments from any council members? Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 5.3.4, a request for decision, Municipality District Yarmouth Strategic Planning. You all have in front of you the recommendation under item 5.3.4.1.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I think there was an additional item for ground search and rescue.
Was there an additional item? All right, before we move on, Councilor McNulty? You have the floor.
Actually, maybe Victoria could provide us a little bit of information on their request for an application towards the community halls fund done through the province.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So Yarmouth County Ground Search and Rescue has been working with CAOs and MLA Colton LeBlanc on an application to the province that would see work done to the roof of their building. That has to happen in order for the other repairs that need to be done to the building to get done. And so Ground Search and Rescue is requesting a letter of support from council tonight, as the application deadline is Friday, to support their application to the province of 75% or $50,000 towards their roof repair. And in the letter, there is some funding that's listed there that they have, that they have confirmed. And so in order to support the application, if there's any willingness to continue to work with Ground Search and Rescue, we would want language in the letter to that effect. So I would recommend a motion to write a letter of support to Yarmouth County Ground Search and Rescue on their provincial application for roof repairs, and to indicate council's continued support for them.
Yes, and I'd make that motion.
Okay, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. And first of all, I must apologize. I did miss that. We had two action requirements on the ground search and rescue. There was a recommendation, and there was also the request for the letter of support. So that's where we've moved to now. So my apologies, Council, for jumping ahead. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? Councillor Nick Hilton, you have the floor.
So all along through the discussion about Yarmouth Ground Search and Rescue, there's been a question if their current home is viable versus a new home, and I think there's the structural integrity report provided by engineer at Delmar that kind of tells them and tells us that they're happy there. It can be a long-term fix if we invest in that building, and they are asking for our support to apply for grants, and they've done a considerable amount of fundraising in the past few months. I think they're a valuable organization, and I think they have acceptable requests, so I look forward to working with them to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and you're absolutely right. They're a group that we hope we never need them, but when we do need them, they're there and they're ready and willing and able to go to work. So absolutely, anything the municipality can do in regards to their help, in regards for our help to help them with funding application stuff, I'm more than happy to do it. Is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 5.3.4, what I jumped to too quickly. Request for a decision, Municipality District of Yarmouth Strategic Planning. You all have a recommendation in front of you. What is the wishes of council? Deputy Warden, you have the floor.
I'll move that the Municipality District of Yarmouth accept the CAO's recommendation to hire Group ATN in the amount of $29,588 plus HST for strategic planning services.
Moved by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. Is there any discussion on that motion? I will make a point. I'm quite happy to move forward on that project. It's something that we need to do. The faster we can get it done, the better, and it gives us all direction to row in the same way. So if there's no more discussion on that, I'd entertain a question on the motion. Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary? Motion carried unanimously. Item 5.4, recommendations from Heritage Advisory Committee. 5.4.1, Port Maitland Cattle Pound Update. And you also have there in 5.4.1.1 a recommendation. Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
I make a motion, the council approves having Heritage Conservation Consultant Brian Arnott come and do an initial review of the heritage property, municipal heritage property, PID number 90146477786, the Port Maitland Cattle Pound.
All right, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Is there any discussion on that motion? No. Councillor Patty Durkee, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just a quick question through you to Councillor Hurlbert. Is there a cost for having him do that?
There was discussion and it's not in the recommendation, but I think it was around $500. So there was, the discussion at the Heritage Committee was that there was an initial consultant to come and look, because we own the property, but we don't own access to it. And according to the briefing note here, we've been told that the survey markers are directly against the stone structure. So we can get in it, but we really can't do anything outside. And so we're fearing that the structure will disintegrate over time, and having this particular consultant come and tell us what can or can't be done. That way, then there may be an additional motion further down the road, but we really don't know at this point what can even be done, if anything.
Thank you very much for that. Is any more discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Item number 6, new business, street light application report. That is there for your information. Any questions or comments? Deputy Warden?
What's the timing on the new streetlight installation?
So, Mr. Chair, through you to the Deputy Warden, what we're working with the vendor on is batching up the work, and we're trying to get them into the community 4 times a year. So the notion is that it would be a 3-month lead time between an outage or a new installation. I will say we're running into supply issues. So the vendor is having trouble getting parts. It's part of the whole COVID impact on the global supply chain. So we had expected them here actually in January, and they haven't come yet. So as soon as possible.
All right. Councillor Patty Durkee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a question with regards to our deep sky, and wondering if any changes are being made to anything that's newly installed to meet the requirements, such as, I think, downturning the light a little bit more so it's not reflecting upwards.
So the vendor is doing all they can. They're using the existing technology that we have. So they're the LED, and they are pointed down, and there's a very small floodplain with the lights. I think it would be a fairly big capital project to go and put the directional pieces on the lights.
The visors.
The visors on the lights, but we are pointing them down towards the road. We're not allowing them to kind of be like this. We want them down on the road. So we are doing that because, as we heard from Mr. Doucette when he was here, you know, you want to make the road safe, so point them down, and so that's what we're doing.
Perfect, thank you.
Any more questions or discussion on that motion? Hearing none? Item 6.2, CAO's report. You all have that in your package. You can all tell the CAO has been very busy. And I think I've been half of her problem, but that's what you told me to do. Is there any questions of the CAO on her report? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to accept the report as presented. Moved by Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Patty Durkee. A motion on the floor to accept the CAO's report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Item 7, correspondence. I don't believe we have any in here for information. However, we do have some here for action 7.2. 7.2.1, Screen Nova Scotia looking for space. You all have that in your package, and I believe it was basically Screen Nova Scotia is looking for places to film. As you all know, there's been different areas in the municipality that has been used or utilized. They're looking for inventory. Councillor Patty Durkee? have the
Sure. This is amazing. I can just share with you that film production and TV production in Nova Scotia is hopping right now. So if we can provide any information about our production space, and we do have some great locations. I think I had brought this up quite a long time ago, and they're asking now for more because people want to come to Nova Scotia, because we're safe. That highly recommend that we respond to this letter and provide any information that we can to them.
Absolutely, and if there's any spots, I was speaking to the CEO about this earlier, could you please forward any locations and stuff forward to staff so we can compile a list and get that list sent off, so it's all done in one? Deputy Warden?
Chair, is our airport space, I say our collective, would be a collective R with the two other municipal units, is that appropriate? Does that fit the bill? 8,000 square feet, 15-foot ceilings, parking asset? And is there any opportunity for development of a space or changing existing space to fit the need of the film industry? It seems like they need a space. Yarmouth would be a great spot to have it. But is there an existing building that we could do something with a minimal investment, not advocating building new space or anything like that to suit their maybe needs and perhaps bring some employment to the area?
I can think of one right off the top of my head would be the Arcadia School, which is owned by the YARC. A building like that's got high ceilings area, but none that I can think of off the top of my head. CAO?
So what I was thinking, Council, was that we would absolutely put up our hand and list off some of the assets we have for locations. I think when we list something like the airport, we would provide the information of the Airport Corporation, just to be clear. And then another piece that we can do is we can promote this in our social media channels and on our website, because I think a piece that I had worked on with Councillor Durkee a while ago was a notion of it encouraging people to go to the database where they can list their locations, because the film industry goes there, and I think it's hosted by the province, if I'm not mistaken. So we can refresh all of that and get the word out there again.
Councillor Patty Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you. I just want to add that actually, movie production was, TV production was a discussion that we had at the last YASTA meeting as a suggestion to see if, we can do something to try and get another production down here, since our tourism industry has been suffering. If that's one way to offset people coming down, that would be great. So there has been a subcommittee that has formed as part of YASTA to make connection with Screen Nova Scotia and provide whatever information they need and basically tell them we're open for business.
All right, any more discussion on that? Deputy Warden, your mic is on. Trevor?
No.
He was deep in thought. Item 7.2.2, Mariner Center Expansion Committee recommendation. You all have that in your package. It's a motion to recommend 275 Main Street facility as the bridge location. What is the wishes of council? Councillor Daniel Allen.
Well, for starters, I'd just like to read that the Mariner Center Expansion Committee made a motion to recommend 275 Main Street facility as a bridge location. The letter stated that the motion was, whereas the bridge subcommittee has reviewed options and made a recommendation to the Mariner Center Expansion Committee, and whereas the town of Yarmouth and the municipality of Yarmouth had made financial contributions for reopening 275 Main Street, whereas the mutually agreed terms of reference call on the Mariner Center Expansion Subcommittee to make recommendations to the three councils. It was moved by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Gil Dares, to recommend to all three councils that 275 Main Street, Yarmouth, be pursued as the option for the aquatics and other community recreation programming as a bridge to the expansion of the Mariner Center. That motion was carried unanimously. I am here today to make a motion to approve a $75,000 initial investment to pursue the viability of 275 Main Street as the bridge to the expansion of the Mariner Center.
A motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushion. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Daniel Allen, you have the floor.
I just want to say that it seems like it's been a little bit of a long road, but the process is starting to show. I think this is good work on the Bridge Committee. I think it's good work by the Mariner Center Expansion Committee, and now it's coming up through. I like the fact that we've taken our due diligence and have been responsible in our actions. And, unfortunately, this is still going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to turn on the switch. But we are starting. Good things should happen, hopefully, and we're moving forward. Thank you.
The next one on my docket here, people might have seen me look down and frantically wrote down a few things I have here in my queue. I believe it's Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. You have the floor next.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Allen, for making that motion. I think it's a great one, and I'm very pleased to see us beginning to move forward on a bridge. I think it's productive, and had lots of people reach out to me as Deputy Warden Councillor to certainly promote that location, to promote a bridge to, I guess, ultimately the Mariner Center expansion. So I think really what people have on their mind is the new pool and the other facilities will be located at the Mariner Center, hopefully not in the too distant future. And this is an important piece to bridge the pool and other services that were at 275 Main Street, and some of those services will certainly be there again to see the community through. We're a fairly large community. The extended community is probably about 25,000 people, so I'm sure it will be well used. So thank you for making the motion.
I believe the next one on the docket would be Councillor Lauren Cushing. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Excuse me. First of all, I want to thank our warden, John Cunningham, our Deputy Warden, Trevor Cunningham, and our Councillor Daniel Allen, and our CAO for their work, their hard work and commitment on the Bridge Committee and the Marion Center Expansion Committee. Thank you for representing the municipality of Yarmouth. Now, I will be voting in favor of the approval of the $75,000 to pursue the reopening of 275 Main Street. That being said, some concerns have been raised by residents of District 6. Yes, while these steps towards the reopening is supported, there are two main questions I've been asked. Question 1, will continued funding for the repair and operation of 275 Main Street become an ongoing expectation for the 3 municipality units? Number 2, if 275 Main Street is a bridge from the former YMCA to the Mariner Center expansion, then does it close when the expansion is completed? The residents who have asked me these questions, I told them I do not have a clear answer. And going down the road, I hope we do have some clear answers that I can respond to the questions being asked. Thank you.
All right, the next one on the docket would be Councillor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's important to recognize the residents that continued to advocate for a pool. Their continued voice through Facebook and email was a reminder of the importance of a pool facility in our community. I was not a member of council when the YMCA closed, but as they cease activities in our community, I'd like to thank the organization and their volunteers for their more than 160 years of service. During the election, I expressed the importance of having a pool in our community. I think the investment in this project is an investment in our eventual move to the Mariner Center. The programming and planning will make transition to a new facility much easier. Personally, I spent last weekend with family and I watched a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old try to swim in a hot tub. The only request they had or gave to me was that we get rid of the hot tub and buy a pool. So investments like this are vital for the growth of our community on so many levels. I realize there is several questions about logistics, but we need to remember that time is a large factor in this, and I look forward to seeing the end result for the benefit of all the residents in our community. Thank you.
Councillor Sherry Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I was out on the campaign trail, I think one of the number one things was an accessible pool and fitness facility, and that was heard over and over and over, and it hasn't stopped being heard by at least myself, and I know other councillors and warden and deputy warden. I think that we are moving forward in the right direction, and it is what I think we need this. We need something in our area for people. It has been a huge loss when the YMCA closed, so I am looking forward to this moving along as quickly and as efficiently as it possibly can, and looking toward the end goal, obviously, of the Mariner Center expansion and anything that may entail. Thank you.
Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to echo Councillor Hilton's sentiments. He said it so eloquently that we've had a community group working extremely hard to try to show us the importance of the YMCA building and pool, 275 Main Street. And so I want to thank them as well for putting forth a great effort to show how important this is. I also want to thank the members of the Bridge Committee for coming up with that recommendation that 275 Main Street be used as the bridge, because I think, quite frankly, it's the only option. Now we have a big task at hand. We have contributed, or we will be, if the motion passes, contributing $75,000 to this project. But there's also, what has to be done now is the development of the business plan, fee structures, programming model. There's a lot of work that's going to be going into trying to put this package together to make it viable. So I look forward to seeing the bridge committees and the new Mariner Expansion Committee meetings. The public, I think, are anxious to watch as well. And I look forward to the progress being made as soon as possible. I know that there was a suggestion that the building could possibly open in September, and I think that would be great for the whole community. Thank you.
All right, is there any more discussion on that motion? I do have a couple questions, and it's going to be for Madam CAO. And it's in regards to, as everyone knows me, where's the money coming from? So what part of the budget can we use to commit commit $75,000 to pursue the bridge? So.
I would explore a couple of possibilities, and we may take bits and pieces from a couple of different streams. So I would explore if any of the work would be gas tax eligible. I would explore our operating or capital reserves. I know one CAO is looking at safe restart. I'm not sure about that. I would look at it. There's an accountability piece around that, but I would absolutely look at all of our options and make sure I leverage our best opportunities, in terms of using our money where it best fits.
So you must have read my mind, because the second part of the question was, would safe restart funds be eligible for this expense? But from my understanding, it wouldn't be, because that building has not been operating during the time when COVID.
The accountability framework that we receive from the province of Nova Scotia is it's vague. It's not black and white. So I'd have to take a look at it. I might check in with my municipal advisor or senior staff at the Department of Municipal Affairs just to check in on that before I would give a formal recommendation to council.
All right, thank you very much, Madam CAO. I will make a couple comments in regards to this motion that's on the floor. So if the other two councils move forward with this recommendation from the Mariner Center Expansion Committee, that would mean a total committed of $225,000 to 275 Main Street, Yarmouth, be pursued as the option. So this funding does not guarantee that building will be opening. So everyone sitting around this table is aware of that. We are focusing all of our attention on 275 Main Street, on programming, on what the building needs and stuff like that. There was also the suggestion by the CAO of the town that this could be down the road till possibly December. With this $75,000 commitment that's on the floor right now, we've got to remember we also put in $25,000 for the MCW MirrorCore report, the first one. I believe in being part of the solution, not the problem. It was recommended by the Bridge Committee that we move forward with, or at least focus our attention on 275 Main, and I agree with that. But there's no guarantee until such time that some of this money needs to be spent to hire consultants and have a real good look at the building. Programming is another thing that was brought up. We got to make sure that this is done right. And then there's going to be I expect additional recommendations coming from the Mariner Center Expansion Committee. All along this whole process, I said, let's follow the process set out by the terms of reference that all three councils agreed to. This is exactly what we're doing. This is exactly what got recommended from the Bridge Committee through me to the councils. I'm a man of my word. I said I was going to commit to following the process, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So if there's no more discussion, I'd entertain a question on the motion on the floor. Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? From what I see, motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Council. Councilor Nick Hilton, you have your mic on?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am excited for the progress now being made in pursuing the opening of 275 Main Street. With the current pandemic, there is an added importance for our council to provide recreation and staycation excitement for our residents as travel continues to be unknown for the upcoming season. I believe as a council we see this need and we recognize this. The recent progress on the Lake Milo Active Transportation Trail, the possible reopening of the pool on Main Street, and a financial support towards the splash park are all examples of how we continue to make progress. The numerous discussions we've obviously talked about the importance of both a bridge to the new facility and the eventual goal of adding a new aquatics facility at the Mariner Center. I see our council excited to help our community grow and to be able to support swimming programs both now and in the future, a current home and a new home for the new Whitecap swim team. I'd like there to be no mistake that this council is dedicated to moving Yarmouth forward. Recent meetings from the province have shown that the importance of being shovel-ready if funding becomes available for new infrastructure. So in addition to the funding towards the bridge, I'd like to make a motion that the municipality and district of Yarmouth add to our capital investment plan an initial commitment of $2 million towards the Mariner Center expansion project.
Motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daniel Allen. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councillor Lauren Cushing, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Thank you, Councillor Hilton, for that motion. I think this certainly clearly demonstrates how dedicated our council, the municipality of the District of Yarmouth, is to see the Mariner Center expansion, aquatic center, become a reality. Very important, and I'm glad to see that motion being brought to the floor. Thank you.
Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Yeah, I agree with the importance of the motion. I'm just, through you, Mr. Chair, to our CAO, I'm not certain that we've budgeted for this. I know we have capital reserves and so forth, but the motion does take me a little bit by surprise, truthfully. Perhaps we could have some comment, and so I'm not sure where the dollars are coming from and where they're going to, where are they going to be held. So those would be big questions as far as due diligence around the process. So I'd like those answered.
Madam CAO.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. So if I'm not mistaken, the motion was to put the $2 million on the capital investment plan, right?
Yes.
So when council meets and they solidify their 5-year capital investment plan as part of the annual budget cycle this year, we will talk about where that's going to come from. So normally when we do the 5-year capital investment plan, projects get put on the plan and then council tells me what pots to pull the money from. So we will have that. So if the motion tonight is to put that on the plan, when we solidify the rest of the plan, we'll talk about where from.
Any more discussion on that motion? I do have a couple comments. Thank you very much, Councillor Patty Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Hilton, for making that motion and everybody for showing our support to the Mariner Center expansion. As we know, this is going to be a costly venture, and so this would be initial, putting aside initial $2 million, because my understanding is that it is going to cost significantly more. However, we don't know about building supplies, there's a lot of unknowns, but at least we know that money has been put aside and will be used specifically for that project.
Councillor Daniel Allen.
Yeah, I want to thank Councillor Nick Hilton for putting this motion forward, because I agree 100%. I believe it shows us being prepared for what we want, that we want this community moving forward, and this shows our preparation, getting ready for it. And we as a council, as far as I'm concerned, have been supportive of the whole process, and tonight we're showing that from start to finish, that we're there to get us to the end, and we're going to be part of the end. So I think it's a great move on our part, and I hope the community starts to get excited, and I'd like to see, I'd really like to see people starting to talk about the expansion and start getting that push on. I think that's where our focus needs to be. You know, we're moving forward with the bridge, and now we want to move forward with the expansion. And I think we're heading in the right direction. We're starting to row in the right direction.
Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? I want to make a couple comments. Thank you very much, Councillor Hilton, for putting that motion on the floor. It's very important that this is documented in our capital investment plan, because that's exactly what you put in the motion, that up to $2 million, or $2 million be put forward to the capital investment plan for the expansion of the Mariner Center. So it shows the public that we're going to be ready. Hopefully, we'll get a shovel in the ground this fall. Now, I know that's very optimistic. I know. I'm an eternal optimist. I'm not a pessimist. Everyone that knows me know that's true. However, if it doesn't happen in the next fiscal year, it can easily get rolled over. It's on the books, and it's a commitment from this council. So whenever the building does get started and the money does have to flow, it's on our books. We know that we've got other capital investments that we'd like to make out to the Cape for Shoe Light Station, along the Milo stretch. There's sidewalks, other projects out there that we're probably going to be working on, and we just recently passed a strategic planning recommendation that we're going to be having. So this is all going to be part and parcel. But thank you very much, Councillor, for putting that on the floor. It shows the community that the municipality district of Yarmouth is ready, along with the motion that we just passed to act as 275 Main as the bridge. So is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried unanimously. Oh, also, since there was two important announcements that the municipality district of Yarmouth made in that regard, in regards to the bridge and our commitment to the Mariner Center expansion, I would like council's permission to put out a press release on those two very important pieces. Deputy Warden?
Yes, I would think that, I won't make a motion, but at this point, but I think that would be a good direction for us to head in. Very, very substantive piece of information, supporting the bridge and supporting the new build eventually. So, or the expansion. So I think that would be totally appropriate.
I do believe that can be done by consensus. I am your elected representative, so just so you're aware. So we'll get to work on that as soon as possible. All right, item number 8, reports. 8.1, legal entities. You all have there in front of you a bunch of different listings. I sent in a written report for the Yarmouth International Airport Corporation. That's on there. There's 2 reports there, actually. Is there any other committee members that have any reports for those? See, number 10 would be Councillor Daniel Allen. You have the floor.
Yes, I'm just going to speak as far as the Mariner Center Management Authority. The Mariner Center Management Authority Board is just undertaking strategic planning program itself, and we've done one session. We have another one coming up. I want to thank our manager out there, Duram Hajib. He set this up. He had great intentions, great vision. He wants to see us coming up with a plan to move us forward and hopefully align everything with the expansion that's going to take place down the road, and have things ready so that when it comes time, we're already positioned to blend in easy. We're going through it. We have a couple new applications. I don't know, have the applications been out for the new board members? I'm going to ask that through you to Madam CAO.
I have not seen the advertisement, and I think partly because there was another resignation just last week. So we may revise it and put out the call for all 3 municipalities that now have a citizen rep vacancy.
Okay, no, that's great, because I do know there is some interest in the community in those positions, and I informed them that there was probably going to be advertisement coming out, so, yeah, I'd like to be able to let them know when it is. But yeah, it's great to see everything's starting to roll in the right direction, as someone once said, so it's good to see. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Counselor. I also must say that I attended the Mariner Center strategic planning as well, and I think, and the reason why I grabbed my phone and picked it up, no, I wasn't going on Facebook or anything like that. I was just looking for the date. I think the next date of the meeting for that is March the 3rd is when I have it. Yeah, so. All right, the next one would be Counselor Lauren Cushing. Oh, I think you missed your cue. It's going to go to Counselor Durkee, I believe, and then I'll come back to you. Counselor Durkee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Counselor Cushing, would you rather me shut mine off and let you go first? Okay. I'm going to report on the Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Tourism Association. At our last meeting, Colton, our MLA from Argyle, thank you very much, visited, and of course Neil, as expected, Neil McKenzie, Executive Director, did a great job selling the ferry as usual, because of course we know that there's some negative comments coming from people, especially now. What's interesting is that grants that have been applied for are coming in at full amounts, because anybody in the tourism industry understands how everybody, all business operators are hurting really badly. So it's been great, because it's going to allow YASTA to move forward with some projects. We're actually still working with True Hilton, who've been asked to join the levy, and so we're just finally finishing up some details on that with a memorandum of understanding. Let's see. Yes, an ad hoc committee was formed to approach Screen Nova Scotia on getting another movie, which should be amazing. Let's see. And that's about it. Kudos to our YASTA committees and office staff for doing an amazing job and working very diligently to try and sell us as a wonderful place to come visit. And they can continue to go above and beyond what's expected. And I know, again, we have that whole ferry problem that we're going to have to continue to sell ourselves, and we just have to make it clear that this isn't a Yarmouth ferry. This is a ferry is important to everybody in Nova Scotia, and it's unfortunate that we have to go back to that again. But look for some great things coming out of YASTA in the near future.
Thank you very much for that, Counselor. Counselor Lauren Cushing, don't turn off your mic this time, because the next one in the queue would.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I hit it by mistake. Well, actually, I wanted Councilor Durkee to speak first. Yeah, my report will be on the Yarmouth County Solid Waste Park. We met on January 6th, 21. I don't know if everybody knows or not, but Scotia Recycling, who used to have their depot out at the airport area, they've moved out of there and they've moved their operations into the valley, and they're using our solid waste park as a holding pattern for trucking the solid waste out. So the present contract we have with them is null and void now. So our waste park manager is engaged with Greg Barrow, our solicitor, to work on a new Scotia Recycling contract and have a draft contract available for the board to review as soon as possible. Another one that we had on the go is the Coastal Marine, which is trying to retrieve ghost fishing gear off the bottom. Because when COVID started, that was kind of discontinued. But I believe, I was talking to our waste park manager yesterday, I think it was, and I believe he said it's back on. So there'll be, we've made arrangements for them to to bring any ghost fishing they can get off the ocean floor to our facility. Also, we also talked about pickup items. Like, there's been a misunderstanding, or how can I say it, lack of direction for for porcelain toilets, sinks, and bathtubs for roadside pickup. And it was agreed that these items are to be picked up at roadside and at the Municipality of Yarmouth and Municipality of Argyle's information sheets and website will be updated to include these items to be accepted for pickup. So that's basically about it. Our next meeting is, excuse me, is a Zoom meeting again on March the 3rd at 9 o'clock. So that's my report on solid waste.
Thank you very much. Councillor Durkee, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a brief comment about Western Regional Economic Network Liaison and Oversight Committee. As the chair of that committee, I was invited to sit on a panel with MP Sean Fraser, and what he was doing is speaking to people in Western Nova Scotia about the pre-budget. And asking, what it is that we felt was a need for infrastructure and economic development. So I put plugs in, of course, for our Mariner Centre expansion. I talked about the needs for improvement in Wharfage. I talked about seniors housing, and housing was a big issue. And there were other comments about money coming directly from the federal government to the municipalities rather than being fed through the province. Of course, climate change comments and coastal issues were raised, as were a number of other issues, but I tried to plug as many things. You didn't have much time since it was quite a crew, but one thing I did mention, though, was cell service as well, because John and I have been plugging that for a long time, and I think that's something that we need to start advocating for better cell service now that our rural internet is moving forward, and I thank them for that. And anyway, it was really great to be able to try and make some plugs for our area.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I'm glad to hear that you're making the plugs. Every time we got to get our names mentioned and heard and giving plugs, keep on plugging. Is there any other committee reports under legal entities? Hearing none, we'll move on to 8.2 advisory committees. I do believe that the audit committee is going to be meeting very shortly. I do remember a doodle coming out. We haven't met. The CAO committee has met. We went over the review of the way that the councils and staff reviews the CAO through the performance stuff. I also received an email in regards from Councillor Sherry Hurlbert in the regards and stuff like that. So we are working on that. Pretty soon you're going to hear CAO's review is coming up very shortly in the next month, I think it is. No, you don't have to chew your fingernails yet. But we're refining that process. There was a lot of questions on there that a lot of councils previously thought that were not inappropriate, but they couldn't answer because they didn't see the CAO performer duties in regards to interactions with staff and stuff like that. So the committee did meet. We are revising that policy, and very soon we'll be all going through the process of reviewing our CAO. Councillor Patty Durkee, you have the floor.
Sorry, Councillor Cushing. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm reporting on Doctor Recruitment and Retention Committee. One of the incentives that the Doctor Recruitment and Retention Committee has brought forth is to provide some incentive to doctors who are coming in terms of allowing, giving an allowance for rent relief, particularly for students right now, because remember, when they're coming here, they already have a place that they rent. So to come here for any length of time, it's hard financially on them. So we've been allowing $50 per day. What's happening with that is that residents who have been here and have been offered this are coming back. So they're seeing as a real incentive to practice, and the word is getting out that we're doing that, and that's something that other areas are not doing. So when students are hearing about that, they're saying, I want to go to Yarmouth, which is really great because they're seeing the attention that we're giving through our community navigator, and it looks good for when they're finished school and you know, doing their residency, that they may choose Yarmouth. So that's worked out really well. We talked about some incentives in terms of setting up a practice to brand new residents. So we're thinking in terms of going outside the box a little bit, and, you know, even going to the public and maybe asking about people who might want to sponsor a resident. So it'll be something, an incentive we just kind of discussed that might be something in the future. The Industrial Commission has put together a video on Harborview, our clinic, which looks really great, and that's going to be sent out to people who are interested in coming here, because quite frankly, to have this whole clinic available, all set up, ready to go, walk in, you know, turnkey, walk the door, and you've got an office right there for you is pretty attractive. We're still doing contacts by and recruitment via virtual, because that's all we can do right now. And there are still doctors coming. So, you know, as much as we have COVID and how difficult this is, we are, the NSHA and our community navigator are still working diligently to fill positions that we have. That being said, there was a map that was shown that, you know, it isn't easy to bring people this far. We are a remote location, I mean in terms of transportation, and it is continuing to be an issue, and therefore, you know, what we're doing in terms of the Mariner Center expansion and the bridge, those are types of things that if those facilities are available somewhere else and not here, then doctors are going to choose those for their families. And so when you think of a place like Bridgewater that's closer to Halifax and it has more amenities, it's more attractive. So we have to do what we can and we are, and I'm really excited to say, you know, all the projects that we're working on are all things that are going to help attract more people to live here. So we're still moving in the right direction. Thankfully, I think there's been 12 doctors in the past year who have come to Yarmouth, which was a great improvement.
One thing I should note is our local MLA, Zach Churchill, is now the Minister of Health. So he certainly knows. I know we will. Thank you very much, Councillor, for that report. The next one would be Councillor Lauren Cushing. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Just a brief summary on the Joint Police Advisory Committee. I never wrote down the date that we met, but it was a pretty informal meeting. Our the RCMP rep, Michelle Lacroix, he gave us a brief update of the activities been happening over the last year or so. And then our next meeting will be coming up in October. So it only meets twice a year, but it's good just to hear what they have to say and some input from some of the people not sitting around the table, sitting in front of the computer, I guess. So Zoom meeting it was. So that's about it for me on that committee.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We'll move on to Councillor Sherry Hurlbert. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Madam CAO, just an update on the Accessibility Advisory Committee and the contacting of the committee representatives and moving forward with a first meeting date.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you to Councillor Hurlbert, both of the citizen reps received their letters appointing them to the committee from the municipality. The letter requested that they reach out to our office and let us know their availability for meeting times. We've heard from one of them, and it's my understanding the Director of Corporate Services has called the other one to get that information, because we need that in order to call the first meeting. So our hope is that it will happen by the middle of March.
Perfect, thank you.
No more committee reports. I do believe the Marketing Promotions Levy Advisory Committee, which I'm part of, is going to be meeting very soon. Yeah, it's been a busy month, that's for sure. Move on. Item 8.3, ad hoc. You all have in front of you, there's 3 committees there.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Are we allowed to ask questions on reports? I had a question about the REMO report. Am I allowed to ask questions at this time?
Absolutely, that's what it's for.
Okay, I wasn't sure. So under the drinking water guideline proposal, it was noted that the committee accepts the proposal for the new guidelines around the drinking water as recommended by the REMO coordinator, and the motion was carried. So I'm just wondering what our next steps as a municipality are. I know we've talked at previous committee of the whole and council meetings about a water strategy. I'm just wondering what our next steps are, especially given the situation with REMO.
Go ahead, Madam CEO.
So, Mr. Chair, I can start, and anybody who participates on the Regional Emergency Management Organization can help fill in. So it's a multi-pronged approach. The long-term approach is going to be around planning. So as we review the municipal planning strategy, we are going to treat water accessibility much like we do coastal erosion or floodplain management. In the near future, we are going to be taking a look at the well water lending program, and we're going to be bringing recommendations to council to try and encourage more participation in that as a source of a source of solutions for people who have water scarcity on their property. And then the other thing that we're going to be doing is really around managing expectations. So the message from the Regional Emergency Management Group, and it will be supported and echoed by the 3 municipalities, is that the provision of free water is over. What we want to do is we want to work with people who are at risk or marginalized through existing program streams that they participate in. So if somebody is a client of senior safety program, if somebody is a client of community services, if somebody is a client of restorative justice or something like that, we want to work with people who are experiencing water scarcity through those existing streams. The accountability frameworks are already built in. Mechanisms for flowing dollars are already built in. We really want to get away from providing free water for second properties or recreational properties, which when we looked at the data last fall, over 50% of the free water that was given away was used in that way. So we want to move away from that. So we're looking at long-term, medium-term, and targeted support. So multi-pronged approach. Hopefully that's a little bit helpful.
No, absolutely. If there's any questions of any council members during committee reports, you certainly may ask any questions during those reports. That's for sure. Whether it be through, whether I can answer them or the CAO. CAO answered that one very eloquently. I forgot about the multi-pronged approach that we were taking, not just one focused item. It was the whole big issue as one. Because the water situation, it used to be a once in a lifetime event. Well, unfortunately, that once in a lifetime has happened 5 out of the 6 years. So that there's an awful trend there, a terrible trend, and we've got to help our residents help themselves. And using the multi-pronged approach is the way that we should be going about that. All right. I don't see your microphone flashing for some reason, but I know it is because it's up here in
I
my,
could just wave.
yeah, throw something.
I just want to take a moment, thank you, to thank the town of Yarmouth for building the water facility. I think that has made a huge difference in for our residents. And I know, at least we know that people can purchase water there in bulk right from this day one if it's, you know, if we have another summer like we've had.
Absolutely. All right, is there any more on ad hoc? Defense and Arbitration Committee meeting did not meet. Mariner Center Expansion Committee, you're going to see on those there the AmeriCorps report from December 8th, 2020, and also the first one from April 23rd, 2020. Councilor Cushing?
Yes, those two reports, the one from April 23rd, 2020, and the December 8th, 2020, they're available to the public now, is that correct?
Yep.
Yes. So I would advise the public to really read them and just see all the details in them, and that will certainly help hopefully bring some light to some of their expectations. And I think I think it's worthwhile reading, and so I just want to make that known. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, there are no more questions of any committees. We'll move on to the warden's report. You turn your mic off, though, so to turn you back on.
I just guess I'm just anxious. This is referring to relating to the Lake Milo Active Transportation Committee. We met, our first one, of course, by Zoom, on the 19th of February. InGlobe is the consulting company who will be working with us. They have an office in Dartmouth. Our first meeting, we dug into some background information gathering. Modi will provide some GIS information through our person who, Alex, and then they'll be doing some topography survey, traffic counts, possible partners, possibility future construction to involve the rail trail connection and connecting to the progress being presently engineered up along the Dayton area. Staff will be contacting TIR staff to update them on our plans and receive updated traffic. Yeah, and we're going to ask gee whiz, updated traffic counts and blue route considerations, since Highway 1 is a blue route. So there's, so we're going to be pressing that also. A meeting will be scheduled at a later date with stakeholders, landowners, and so that'll be coming up in the near future. Project challenges will be established. As with any project, they never go smooth, but at least we're going to be looking at the challenges and figure out how to solve some of them. There will be a team visit from representatives of InGlobe and municipality of staff on March the 2nd, which will be doing a walk along Highway 1 just to take a good look at what's there now. There was some good information brought forward at our first committee meeting, and about what's under the subsurface along that stretch there. None of us here can remember the day when there used to be a trolley car that ran from Villa St. Joseph, where used to be the Canadian Pacific Hotel at the time, down through town, back and forth. So there's a good foundation, should be a good foundation bid there for our active transportation trail. So looking forward to that. I do know there was some mention about some portions of rock wall showing from the lakeside back to the banking. So I think we've got a good foundation there, and I'm looking forward to it. And our next meeting will be coming up by, gee whiz, when is it? I forgot to write that down. But we do have another meeting coming up. So anyway, so very positive. I think we had a good group. Our citizens rep the citizen reps that we have sitting on the committee they provided some good input and very excited about the project themselves. And I know they're going to add some good remarks and suggestions as we move forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Patty Durkee.
I have something to add, which should have been done at the very beginning, and I'm not sure if I can do it now. But I'll bring it up. Our CIO
Is
had
it
mentioned
another
it.
agenda item, or?
It's an agenda item. It's just about congratulatory letters, because we forgot to include that.
All right, usually what happens, and I did do my homework on this, if you wish to add this to the agenda, it would require 2/3 vote of council to have it added. So if you want to make a motion, since we're at the end of the committee reports, I can easily add it in afterwards. So if there's something you'd like to add, just make a motion to add it, and we'll vote on it, and then if it's 2/3, then you can go ahead.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to add an item to the agenda
Yep.
that has to do with congratulatory letters.
Okay, so a motion on the floor, do I have a seconder? Okay, seconded by Councilor Nick Hilton. All right, to add an agenda item through the middle of a meeting, we need 2/3 vote. So before I call the question on that motion, just remember that. So, question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried unanimously. So we'll add that under item, I guess, 8.5, congratulatory letter. So Councilor Durkee, since you had asked to have that added to the agenda, you have the floor.
First of all, I'd like to publicly congratulate our new premier, Ian Rankin, and recommend that we make a motion that we send letters of congratulations to him and to our new to our new Minister of Health and Mental Health and Addictions, Zach Churchill, and any of the other ministers, particularly who we're going to be dealing with in the next little while with regards to our big projects that we, anybody that's new, Brendan, forget his last name, McGuire, thank you so much, who's new to DMAH, or DMA, sorry, that's now changed. It's going to take a while to get together. So my motion was to send a congratulatory letters to the new ministers in the province and the premier.
All right, a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Daniel Allen. All right, is there any discussion on that motion? I do have one quick thing. Absolutely, our local MLA, and I probably jogged your memory when I asked you when you're giving your doctor recruitment report. I said our MLA is under a new portfolio under health, and I probably jogged your memory.
You did.
And you're absolutely right, and maybe I should have added that before the agenda, but you're absolutely right, that should have been on there. Is there any discussion on that motion? Question being called on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Moving on, item number 9, Warden's report. I wrote the report, but apparently I didn't read it because on February the 10th is when we had our CAO's review, so I had to review what I wrote down to see what I actually did. Also in there, in regards to the Mariner Center Expansion Committee, I have on there that I've received over 50 emails, and I'm happy to report I emailed back every one that I received. Most of you, I believe, got 90% of them, but there was a few more that I did not CC you, so I'm very happy to report that, and I'm actually quite proud of that because it takes a lot of time to do emails via phone sometimes, and that's where most of them are done. And I'm also very happy to hear that the Municipality District of Yarmouth has moved forward with the recommendations from the Mariner Center Expansion Committee, move forward with 275 Main Street as a possible solution to the issue that we have in regards to aquatics and some other things. And also very happy to report that Council just approved a motion of $2 million for a capital investment plan, so that will not be falling off the radar. So we'll be ready to move, and that's my report, Council. And if there's one more thing I should add is during these COVID times, I'm finding it very difficult to get out and be out and about. I did perform the duties, sometimes helping out the warden of a previous term when he couldn't make events, and there was always something going on, whether it's going on at a community hall or a fundraiser or a meet and greet, even funerals and things like that. I can't wait for things to get back to normal because it doesn't feel right not getting out and about, because we are the grassroots politicians. I take great pride in that, and I take great pride in getting out and about the community, even to a hockey game. I certainly miss that, and hopefully soon with the COVID vaccine slowly being rolled out, things can return back to normal in a timely fashion. So that's my report. Okay, move on. We have one in-camera item, so I would entertain a motion to move into camera. Moved by Councillor Patty Durkee, seconded by Councillor Nick Hilton. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, motion carried.